So that's a bit of a boring backdrop in the background. So over the years on YouTube, I've tend to move my camera around every so often just to change up the background, and especially while I've been in this house, I've kind of primarily just filmed from one location there, because out of this entire room, which I do love, there's only one pretty-ish backdrop, and it's a wooden wall which is behind you. So I tend to always have that in the background, but it's still not amazing. And what happens is when I move the camera, I never get it in the right place all the time. Lights move, they might not be as bright because I'm not pointing at a particular angle and things like that, which means I have to make sure the lighting's correct every single time. I have to stop the sun coming through. I have to make sure the camera's got particular settings to make everything look nice and pretty. And it's a ball ache, and it makes doing the entire process annoying. So what I've done is I've now moved the camera, you guys, onto the wall in between my three monitors, and in doing so means that I've now mounted some lights that are set to a preset setting, so when they turn on they always go to the exact settings every single time, which means the camera can stay the exact settings every single time. And because it's on the wall, it's already wide up, and it just means the second I want to do a rant video or do a stream or anything, I just hit go and we're off. When I'm on Twitch, I have a green screen, and that just goes up behind me, velcros all the way across there, and it's perfect, which means I can have any old backdrop behind me, which works well for streaming. But occasionally when I'm streaming, I like to just kick back and chill with the viewers and have a chat, and I want some like mood lighting, something pretty in the background instead of just a transparent cutout of me. But at the same time, when I'm doing YouTube videos, as you may have seen from the last one or two that I've done, this is my backdrop, and it's not too exciting. We have a printer, we have some paper, and when you're doing a talking head video, it's nice to actually have something in the background so your eyes can wander, and it just looks like a better video anyway, just having something nice in the background. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get some custom units. When I built this room originally, it was intended to be an office, and over the year it's kind of turned into more of a video studio. Now I've got the lights mounted onto the tables, some on the wall, we've got extra monitors in here, microphone and all the other bits, which means the idea of having a printer and all the paperwork isn't necessary. I can move these into the room behind me because I don't need them. I only touch them like once a month on a printer, once a week or so they don't need to be here. And I've got lots of figures that live out in the background that I never get to see. I only see them as I walk past, and that's pretty much how much love those items get. So I'd like to get them in here with me so I can actually look at them and go, well, there you go. I've spent some money on it. I can actually enjoy it now because I can see it. So we're going to get some units on the go. We have a very odd shaped room, which means if I wanted to buy them, I couldn't, because you're never going to make them fit. And you know me, any chance I get to actually make something, I probably will. So we're going to make some units for these back walls. So first thing we need to do is get all this crap out and measure up. See, I even made this. This guy gets no love. No one gets to see him. He needs to be proud on a shelf. Now, should I have taken the big metal safe out of here before trying to lift it? Probably. Now we can see what we're working with. So that's how it would normally work. I can just cut myself out as easy as that. But it does mean I can now shrink myself and show you the designs. So here we are in SketchUp, which is my editing application of choice, and it's free. So I would advise you to use this one. Plus it's very easy to use. But at first I was just thinking about getting some shelves on the wall like that. And I was like, you know what? It's boring. I'm not liking that. So then I started having a play around, and I came up with something like this. And this, to me, just is so much more inviting. It's not just because of the colours, but because it feels more mishmasher. That just small shelf, long shelf, bit too boring. This works a hell of a lot better. So once I've designed this, and this is a great reason for actually using an application like this, you can question how you're actually going to do it. And what I've done here is I've built like some little tiny digital zeros, if you want to call them that, and they're going to obviously space all the shelves. Now I can't drill in to the wall behind me, because it used to be a bathroom, and like an idiot I left the tiles up, and then I put plasterboard and then plaster. So every time I try to hang something on that wall, I can get through the plaster, but then it hits the tiles and it's a problem. Like, yes, I could get a drill bit that will get through it, but I was just thinking, to make the process easier for me, I don't really want to have to drill into the wall. I may put a drill one right at the top just to give it a bit of security, but apart from that, most of this wants to be holding its own weight and not be floating. So I've built these, and the reason I've actually put the bit on at the bottom instead of just legs is I realised if I just do legs, I can drill into one of the legs from the bottom, but I won't be able to drill the underleg from the top because that piece of wood's going to be in the way. So it's like, how can I get around that? So by designing it like this means I can build these, put them in place and drill in through this bit and this bit, because there's a nice opening to get my drill in. That is why I always say plan it out first, because if not, you're like, crap, how am I going to come around to do that? So this is the idea, each shelf being 30 centimeters apart, because that's around about the average size of one of my figures. But then I thought to myself, what happens if I wanted to have, like, I don't know, a Christmas tree in the background? And I thought, well, if I left a gap here, I could then get something 60 centimeters big, allowing me to have something a bit better than just shelf on shelf. But I don't know if I'm always going to need that space. So what I've done is I'm put these brackets here on purpose, so this shelf will be removable. When it's gone in place, it'll actually just sit on top of these little brackets, and then at any point I can just snap it straight off and hide the piece of wood, and I've then got the space for something larger. And it also breaks up the units a little bit. By having this divider here, it kind of just makes it look a bit more like Tetris pieces rather than just boring row after row after row. So that's what we're going to go with, and we need to go out and buy some wood. So I've been and got some wood. I've picked up 10 strips of this stuff. I think there was 160 a pop. I think they're about 2.5 meters each, and then I picked up 7 of these planks as well, which should be enough for the entire build. The only one thing that could bite me is this wood I actually got from the cheap pile. It was only £1.60 a strip. In doing so, they all look the same until I actually laid them down, and there's a mil difference in between them all. Now, not a problem if I make the brackets all out of this single piece of wood, it's not an issue. It's when it comes down to the last few bits, and I'll be like, oh, I'll get a couple of the legs out of that and a couple of tops out of that. When I come to piece them together, there might be a mil in it, but we can sand it, we can do what we need to do. More than anything, I'm just glad I actually caught the fault now, before later when I go, why are they not matching up? They're all the same size. So first thing I'm going to do is just rip a couple of these down to the correct size, and then just do a mock-up and actually see how well these all fit. Sadly, we're going to have to actually use the table saw to cut all this down, because I did have a nice little saw on here, but it went bang, and I'm now having to use this. So I'm going to keep you at a distance. You might question why. The answer is, I ain't getting dust on you. You're too expensive to get dust on you, so I'm afraid you can stay over there. As for me, I wash up. You can wash the dust off me. It ain't too bad. So that should be a length of a shelf. Right, so they're going to be how thick the actual brackets are going to be. I just need to build one from there and there. And I don't know if it came across well on video, but I was saying the original problem is if I just stuck with these, I could drill under them, which would hold them in place. But then when I put the next set of shelves on, I can't drill under them ones, unless I made them a bit random. But I kind of like the idea of doing a full square, circle, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just working out now how big this piece has got to be. Normally you would probably say, how wide's that? Minus them two is your answer. But I want to give myself a bit of playroom, mainly because there's a little bevel on this wood, which means if I actually go flush, it doesn't look quite neat, so I kind of want to take in the bevel. But also on top of that, if I give myself a little bit more wiggle room, both from the front and the back, if I ever make any of these slightly different size, if this one was 20 centimeters, the next one's 20.5 centimeters, you won't notice the difference because all of them are going to be recessed back a little bit. So it just gives me a bit of wiggle room for not making everything perfect in size. So I'm just working out what that sweet spot is for me to actually measure it up at, and then we'll make our first demo one and see how it looks. I'm glad I did a dry run because I've just measured these and I accidentally converted what was millimeters into centimeters, and it bit me. So I've now done it again, and this is how big it actually fits, which I'm very happy with now, because there's a tiny little gap across the front, but it also leaves a gap at the back. Now I want a bit of a gap at the back anyway, because when the wall is there, it'll be nice to have a little space here, just because if I run lights down the back or anything, or if I put an Alexa in, I want a USB cable, I'll be glad to have something at the back so it can tuck cables away instead of running them through there, which will make it a bit ugly. But with the actual size of it now, I actually quite like it. I think they just look nice, strong, sturdy. We're going to paint these up black and then each shelf brown. So the next thing I need to address now is I've made sure, because the actual viewing angle will be from this angle, that it's a one full piece at the front instead of it being sat on top of there, because that means when you look at it you'll see block, long bit, block. So I've obviously built it that way, so the long bit's at the front. This means that you would normally screw to it from this angle, which means you will see a screw. I knew this would happen, so I've actually been out and brought some black screws to go with black stain. Now if I can use screws and it matches with the stain and looks alright, it's going to be a lot easier for old Uncle Junkie. So I'm going to try it and see what it looks like first of all. If that fails, we're going to have to do like some sandwich biscuit or something and we'll wood glue it. Not a problem, because this doesn't actually take any stress. The weight is going to be pushed down from there to there, which will be passed to the next shelf and the next shelf, so these don't actually do anything. All they're going to be for is for me to screw into to actually keep them in place. So they're never going to take any stresses. So I'm actually thinking glue is going to be more than enough to keep this all together. I'm thinking I might screw one side, glue the other side, stain it all black now thinking about it. Then I can actually just test in the morning how okay that is versus how pretty this looks this side.
Probably far too much.
So that's the first one done and dusted. So if this holds, I think I actually might do this, a mix of both. Screws in the back, glue on the front. Front looks pretty to the viewer, can't see the back with the screw holes. That's giving it a bit of rigidity, good word there, rigidity, to screw into at the bottom. That's going to be pinned to that. The front's never going to be swang on, glue should hold it enough. Easy enough to knock out. I just think I need to do 20 of them. So I'm going to leave this now, wait for it to dry, and then we'll see how strong it actually is, and then I can stain one up, look at it, see if I'm happy with it, then copy and paste. So good morning everyone. I apologise for this light. I realise it just completely cuts the front of my face off unless I lean back like this. But nonetheless, this is dried and it is solid. It is more than good enough. I would feel confident to just keep the whole thing glued, but it actually makes it harder to glue both sides and line them all up. It's easy to just screw from the back, glue from the front. Our prototype is working. So we now need to make 19 more of these, which is a bugger, and I've only got so many clamps, so I'm gonna have to make them in batches, which I'm gonna start doing now. But originally the idea was to have this shelf, let's get you down a little bit, there we are. The idea was to get this shelf when I designed it on the edge, and then do you know that shelf that I said that I could take out and move around? Well, the idea was I was going to put a shelf, just leaving a tiny little gap here of like 1 centimetre, and then the snappable shelf could actually just rest on top of it. And to be fair, that would work all right, but because I'm going to recess these by 1 centimetre, this sat like that is going to bug me, I think, knowing it is a bit, because it looks like I've cut it wrong. And I'll know in my head I'm going to be putting another shelf there, but it will bug me that people look at it and go, oh, he's done that wrong. So I'm thinking of finishing the shelf there and actually cutting a little kind of recessed bevel in here, and likewise for the other piece, so the interlock. But that means if I do a 1 centimetre bevel in here, the other one needs to be 1 centimetre bigger to catch. So luckily enough, I only ripped 2 boards down out of the 4 I need for the first side. And then on the left side, it's slightly bigger because I'm working in a weird shaped room. Obviously the walls are different sizes. So the point is I've caught that fault now. So what I'm gonna do is just knock out the idea of an interlocking bevel, just to see if it works and how nice it finishes against the other piece of wood, to see if I'm gonna do that or I'm gonna do the leave a gap, let it rest on there. So that's what we're doing. So the idea for the shelf is to just build that into both of them, and then they should just fit nicely like that. May need to dial in a little bit more on how much I actually take out, but hopefully the shelves can then be taken out and put in and they won't look as bad. So now that I'm happy with the actual size of this bracket, what I've done is I've just made 2 of these, which is going to be the actual length of it and the base of it, and I've simply labelled them base and leg. You probably can't see that, and these 2 I'm not actually going to use because of what I've noticed in the past is if I make something to size, then I measure it and then I use it, and then the next one I measure it, it starts to creep up in millimetres or go down in millimetres. So it's always best to keep a template away from the rest of them, and all of them will be copied off that same template. So it should be easy enough now. Now I've got these, I just need to put a little block in, measure it up, make sure that my template fits, put them away, make sure I don't accidentally use them, and then moving forwards, every block should automatically be the same size. Hopefully, but things always go wrong, don't they? When I'm cutting a lot, I have to put these on because I like my hearing. I'm very happy because I've just also checked now and I can get my drill in to actually make a pilot hole, one to actually round off the hole, and then I can actually get the drill in there as well to do the screw. Oh wait. Screws will start higher. Oh wait, that's a bit. There we go, we can put a bit in there. We'll easily get that hammered down. Perfect. It works! So the idea of doing the actual shelves with a tiny little recess in there has worked out quite alright. So this is one of the middle shelves that will allow me to detach it. These aren't in the permanent place because obviously I've just attached them in for now. But thanks to the little recess, as you can just see on there now, it does allow me to just take that shelf out and leave them 2 clean, ready for a larger item such as a Christmas tree to go in the middle, and then whenever I want it back I can just place the shelf back in. It will fit in nicer when these ain't wobbling and changing shape all the time, but I'm pretty happy with that. Right, so far I've made 6 of these. Yes, it's taken a long time, but I only need 6 to be able to mock up the size of it. So as you saw, I made a design on the computer and I've worked out all the sizes beforehand. That's perfect. The only thing I didn't do is work out the initial legs of the entire unit, because I could have worked it out on the computer, but I know what happens. bits of woods can bend, a few things could be a mill out here and there, and by the time I get to the top it's completely out of whack. So I thought I'll do it the opposite. I'll build the units, then measure the legs and get them perfect. So I'm just going to quickly chuck them up, and what I'm planning to do is I want the fourth shelf to hit this corner perfectly, and then I can put the half shelf above that. That can be done later, I'm not bothered about that. I just want to make sure I can get to this corner and not accidentally blow through the corner, and then all of it has to come apart again and I have to cut the legs and all that crap. So I'm going to go and knock this up now. I think that's pretty much bang on. So everything's now cut down to size, and I've just started a little production line going along. So all the actual shelves are all cut and everything sorted. Down there I've got all the actual parts, the fronts, the backs, the actual sides all done. So I'm every half hour or so I'm actually just gluing them up. So I'll go through, glue them, then I'll hang it up there out of the way so it can't get damaged. Then it will get put onto a pile where I will leave it for about a day just to make sure the glue's done. But I already had a pile from yesterday which is dried, which is now there, and what I'm doing is going through, just adding a little pilot hole and rounding the actual bottoms of it, just so when I come to actually screw it in, it's not going to take away some of the stained wood, because I might as well make the hole, stain it, and then it will look all good. So I'm now getting to the staining stage, which we're doing here, and I might have to stain it twice because something's come to bit me. This part is stained a lot better than the front part, and I didn't even think about this. This is one of these things that you just learn with time, don't you? And what it is these are very smooth, nice pieces of wood. So I was like, okay, let's get this nice bit of wood and we'll have that for the front, because obviously you want the front to look the prettiest. And then I've got some of these that are a bit battered, and they're more like porous, if you want to call it that. I don't know what the official wood word is. I think it's something to do with the tannins in it. But because they're a bit more rough, I was like, I'll stick them at the back. Well, because they're rough, they're actually taking in the stain a hell of a lot better, which means the backs of these are staining a lot better than the fronts. So not too much of a problem. I'll wait until it's dried and we've got the final colour, and then I'll actually look if I want to stain just the front, just top it up again, or I might actually be like, you know what, I kind of like how there's a bit of the wood coming through and a bit of the black coming through. So we shall see once we've got a few up. But because they've got the holes, it means I can just I've got tons of these. These are brick pins or whatever it is, just to keep bricks connected to each other. And as always, I buy everything in bulk. So I've got a load left over from when I built a wall. So I'm just going to have them all across there, painted them up. And I'm hoping, I've got 8, so if I can get them stained and they will be dry by hopefully tonight. If not, I can do it first thing in the morning. 8 will be enough to build the shelves. I need 10, and the last 2 sit on the very top of the shelf, but I don't care that I haven't got them, because I want to build the shelves and then I can work out how big that final shelf is actually going to be. Because of obviously the curve of the roof, I don't know how big that final shelf needs to be, and I'm not guessing. I might as well build it, get it on the wall, and then measure it and make it fit perfectly. So the only thing I need to cut now is that final shelf, which I can't do until it's been erected. So I'm off to do some staining. So we are now dry fitting the shelves, which is a good day. I started off panicking. This stain came out more orange than I expected, which upset me. But I put a Photoshop on Discord, which was a darker version of this versus the natural browny orange that I've done it. And people said they actually preferred this, and so does Joe. But it actually looks worse in the workshop with the unnatural lights. In this room, it actually looks a hell of a lot better, and I like the contrast of brown versus black against white. I think it's very nice. It pops. So what we're doing is just dry fitting it now, mainly because some of these are a little bit tacky. I could do with leaving them for a bit longer. I haven't got the space in the workshop. I'm running out. All of these parts is just to build the left hand side, and I've still got more to build for the left. So I need to just get them in here and drilled in, so I've got space to then stain all the right hand side. So I'm going to hopefully get this built today, but I've still got another day of staining and drying for that side. But sooner this is built, sooner that can get stained. So I'm just cracking on, even if it's a bit tacky, but it's not enough to actually leave residue on the wood, so it don't matter. We're going to go for it. Some of these still need to be stained, but I'm just going to slide them in. So I know where the final shelf finishes, because as I said, the last shelf I need to measure up and work out where it actually finishes. So the easiest thing to do is build this bugger, find out where it finishes, take a measurement and build the final shelf. And you may be questioning, why is the popsicle sticks on the floor? And it's simply because I'm just using them against there. So every single shelf is one popsicle stick's width from the edge, just so I can replicate it on every single shelf. Yes, some people may use something like this, a technical piece of toolage, but Uncle Junkie likes popsicle sticks because it doesn't matter. As long as it's the same every single time, it's fine. Plus I've actually set this to 4 centimeters, which I'm using here, just to make sure that the unit finishes 4 centimeters to the edge, and I can also replicate that going up. Right, so this is the final full shelf. So I'm having to use another one of the unpainted ones, but it doesn't matter, it's just to get an idea of where this final shelf is going to finish. I want to leave a little bit of a gap there just to train some cables down. In fact, a bit more of a gap in case I want to realign all the shelves a bit to the left. But I think that will be, you know what, actually, so this is why it's worth doing, because these two are here. If I get that smack in the middle, there will be something quite beautiful about that, which means that would finish about there. No, I like that. Right, I'm going to measure up now and actually find the perfect middle point to this, because that makes my brain happy. So they're all done. So that turned out a lot better than I expected. There's a few bits all the way through the process like, oh, is it going to work? Is it going to look a bit wonky? Is the colours right? I'm happy with how we've got the removable shelves there and there. I need to go and put Space Cat on a little platform just to give him the perfect height. And everything that you've seen on the shelves is temporary, really. I don't know if I'm going to stick with them consoles. I kind of just chucked them up there. And some other things I'm actually going to be creating over the next few videos to actually put on the shelf. So there's going to be lots of changes. And also, I just need to dial in how this is going to look. Because, yes, the background now is a lot more exciting and better than printers. But for one, we can chuck gels on, just to change up the room a little bit, and on top of it, so I've chucked a couple of lights on to see what they're like. I don't know if I'll keep them just temporary over Christmas, remove them or not, I don't know. So I've got to do a few different tests, look what the lighting looks like, how it actually, I've got to change a few settings on the camera, to be fair, to try and dial it in. That's a process for another day, but nonetheless, the shelves are done. I'm happy chappy, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and you should be getting a lot more content on this channel now, mainly because all of this means I can film more, and also I don't know why, it would be more wise to do workshop stuff in the summer, but for some reason I get that creative bug in the winter when it's freezing and you can see my breath, but it doesn't matter. Content's content, isn't it? So thank you very much for watching, guys. I don't know why I can never finish a sentence, but it doesn't matter. Cheers.